Hello there. Welcome to Hacking Self-Storage. So the interview is back today. I haven't actually recorded anymore, so I don't know if it's back next week or not, but the interviews are back today and I have started with an absolute bang. It's a gentleman called Richard Davies. And this guy, if by the way, just spoiler alert, if you are watching this on, as I lift my chair up again, if you are watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever it may be found, I don't actually know where it's been put all the time now, you will see around about 5 minutes before the end, my chair starts going doop, doop, doop. It starts going down. And I'm like, oh shit, I can't do anything around it. All of a sudden you see my head just go whoop and down a little bit more, down a little bit more. Anyway, so I went on Richard's mastermind. And as I said in the last podcast on Friday, it has literally changed my life. And I am a massive advocate for reaching out and finding people who know more than you. And as it happens, I know nothing about property investments. I know nothing about freehold and purchasing them. I know that you can put an offer in that. I know what majority of people know, but I don't have the expertise. And it's critical and crucially important to find somebody who is 1, 2, or in this case, 10, 11, 12 steps in front of you, and they can mentor you. I'm a massive advocate for mentors. Now, Richard actually goes through exactly what is the Opco Propco in this podcast. He's done so many different things. You'll hear him go on what he's done and what he's achieved in the past, but now he's doing the Opco Propco, and it's really, really eye-opening what the amount of cash flow it's chaining off, how much he now owes on the property, what the property is valued at, how much he's actually made from it. This interview, it's not really, I don't really like the word interview. This chat, I thoroughly enjoyed it. At one point, I was getting goose pimples because I was thinking, oh my God, this just makes so much sense. And most people probably just think it's too good to be true. Or most people aren't aware or aren't educated enough to realize what is possible out there. This interview, this opportunity, it lifts the veil on really what is possible. And if anybody is interested in learning more about Richard and his company, then I thoroughly recommend. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Because you've got to, it's not for people who've just been trading a year. You've got to be trading it, a couple of years. You've got to have a background, a successful background, something that the banks can lend from. And so I thoroughly, by lending from, what I mean is some results, where you've got some profitable accounts. But I thoroughly recommend that everybody has a look at this, because it has the potential of not just growing your wealth, but growing generational wealth for your family. You are literally growing wealth. You are not relying on just an operating company. You have got a property company as well. And the big boys understand this. But yet us smaller players, we don't think it's possible, because we think that you've got to put down so much money, etc., millions and millions and millions, and it's just not possible. It's just not the case. And then once we go through it, we can take the money out when we get. It's a fascinating conversation. As you can tell, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to Richard Davies. Anyway, you haven't come here to listen to me talk about my squeaky chair and going down, going up and stuff. You've come here to listen to the man, the myth, the legend. He genuinely is. Richard Davies. Here he is. So, Richard, I have just done an awesome introduction for yourself. Thank you so much for joining us, buddy. I have been genuinely looking forward to speaking to you and getting you on this podcast. Thank you, sir.
It's great to be here, Dean. It's been great to get to know you over the last few months.
I appreciate that. Thank you, buddy. I have literally been telling everybody who will listen to me that it has been the best investment that I have ever made, your mastermind. And obviously we've got a mutual friend, Dan Bradbury. Do not tell Dan I said that, but it has literally been the best investment I've ever made. So yeah, kudos and thank you.
Well, it's been enjoyable. It's been great. And I'm glad you got lots of value from it.
I loved it. So, Richard, if you could tell us, the listeners, a little bit about you and your background, that would be awesome, because most people probably on this podcast have only heard me talk about you.
Okay, so I've just entered my 50s, so basically want to go back half my life. I was fortunate enough to work with a self-made billionaire, guy called John Hunt, at a company called Foxton's Estate Agency. I was developing various businesses for him in the mid-90s. Then I got into residential real estate for myself. Perfect time. Any that can make money in residential in central London in the late 90s, and that was me. And I wrote a couple of books. on residential development and residential investment. And then I managed to, I'd sort of done so well, I kind of managed to retire for 3 years from 30, when I was about 30. And when I got to about 33, I was so bored that, and I was looking for something to do. I was getting these royalties from these books. It was being published by an independent publisher called Property Secrets, which was the original sort of grandfather of real estate publishing, online publishing in the noughties. And anyway, basically, I could see that they weren't making any money, so I said, look, why don't I come in, exchange my royalties for a percentage of the company, and basically, cut a long story short, basically profits went through the roof. I took investors over to Eastern Europe and made about €500 million worth of investments in Eastern Europe on behalf of investors, made investors a ton of money until the global financial crisis killed that market because all the FDI stopped. Then in 2008, I was again asked to join with a fledgling business called Platinum. Platinum Property Partners was the pioneer of co-living, premium co-living in the UK. Basically, it was operated as a franchise, and I came in and run the business and as the MD. And we built that business, and we are very well known in the industry. A lot of people have now come and copied us. And if you know anything about marketing, basically, blue ocean strategy is where, you know, you've got markets with low competition, high margins, etc. Like that was us at the start, and certainly a lot of people have copied us. In 2000, and we were already a great making good money out of the business by 2013, and it became really obvious that we needed to go and buy our own building, which basically we're going to talk about, I'm sure, in a minute. Basically, we bought our own office building, and I then basically built the commercial property publishing, investment company that became a sister, called Bourne Asset Management, became a sister company to Platinum. So we're going to again talk about Opco, Propcos. Platinum was the Opco and Bourne was the original Propco, basically. And in 2017, I rolled that up into a group called CHX, which stands for Our Values of Commitment, Honor, Love. And we've now got so that's our parent company. I'm now the group CEO, and we've branched out into a whole load of new kind of sort of stuff. We've got these great ambitious plans. And one of them is additional programs, training programs. Platinum offers a style of training and development, which basically, instead of teaching people or doing it for them, we do it with them. And which basically means mentoring, coaching, and training. It's a very intimate kind of training process that we kind of follow, and we've now adapted that kind of training process to teach people how to invest in commercial property, which is the big new thing. So that's me, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, I love that story, because I heard that story when you was being interviewed by Dan Bradbury, and I was like, okay, right, I get it, but what is Opco, Propco? And I was like, okay, right, come on, Dan, ask the question. That's the question. So I'm going to ask you the question, Richard. What is, for people who don't know, and that's probably majority of people listening, what is Opco, Propco at the minute?
Okay, so it's really quite simple. It's a type of company, and it's basically a banking term that, you know, I didn't come up with Opco, Propco. Basically, in fact, actually, when I went to my bank manager in 2013, said, look, can we borrow some money to buy this building? And I explained what I wanted to do. And she said, oh, you just want to do an Opco, Propco. So what it basically means is you've got an operating company. So you've got a company that's making money, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You can be in storage, you can be a marketing consultant, you can be an accountant, whatever, right? And it's a trading business, and you're making money. That's an operating company, Opco. operating company, and that operating company will need premises by and large, okay, and you've got two choices. You either rent or you buy, right? And if you buy, you can create a property company, Propco, okay, that effectively becomes your own landlord. So instead of you paying a landlord and getting them rich, basically you're paying yourself, and you operate the Opco, Propco structure. Yeah.
Yep. So when I heard about this and I heard your numbers and I heard how well you'd done this in Bournemouth, hadn't you? And Opco, Propco, you found a building in Bournemouth and you bought it and you moved into, I think it was one floor, was it? And then you rented out the rest of it. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. Basically, there's 4 floors in this building, and we took one floor. It was a beautiful building. Fun enough, my first business was there when I was 18. So it was like really great karma, basically, coming back. I fell in love with it, and it's one of the things that we teach. You can't buy things on emotion, but it was a good omen, right? Kind of when you turn up and kind of go, this is where my first business was, and so yeah, but we didn't need the whole building. So we just rent, but it was unloved, this thing, right? A lot of the tenants had left. And one of the things about the Opco Propco is that basically, if you operate a company, you are a businessman. And actually those skills as a business, I should say business person, transfer into running a property company. It's basically look after your customers, basically. And this building was unloved. And the first thing I did, and the team were unloved, the first thing I did when I bought it was sit down the team and said, look, we're going to treat you better than you were treated before. And the first thing you're going to do is organize a lunch for all the members, all the tenants, basically. And I said to all the tenants, it's going to get better. Don't leave, right? And it's really simple sort of stuff, just looking after your customer. And we took that where it was mostly empty. The fact that we put ourselves in there in the first instance, basically, obviously, filled it up a bit. We took one floor, but then basically we asset managed. We dealt with our customers, and basically we filled the place up. And yes,
so it was offices. It was offices to start with, but
yep.
it was unloved, and they didn't have a big occupancy rate. I suppose we can in self-storage we can actually see parallels here. And you love the building more, you treat your customers better, and you actually added value by, you did a rooftop terrace as well, which I've been to, which absolutely looks amazing, by the way. And then you got more and more customers on the back of that then.
Yeah, exactly. And we just basically improved the buildings. We spent a bit of money, painted the walls. You know, when we bought it, this is 2013, the latest bit of kit which they had was an overhead projector, you know, those old acetate kind of thing. So it was like we're going to put some flat panel kind of, we didn't spend a lot of money on it, but basically it didn't take very much to turn around and make us a very attractive proposition. And yeah, in terms of storage terms, yes, it was before we bought it, it was about 30% occupancy. We took it up to sort of 50-60% occupancy straight away. And then we just improved our offering and basically got it up to 100%.
And in terms of figures then, just outline how well this actually did for you guys, if that's all right, Richard.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, obviously we can share sort of, you know, we're very, very open about our financial results, basically.
So
very, very open. Yeah. So basically we've got sort of we're putting brochures together and everything like that, which shows all of our sort of results over the first 10 years. So we've owned it in our 9th year now. And basically, you know, if you cut to where we've got to right now, at the end of this financial year, we will have an asset. If we had, and we didn't do this because we took all the surplus cash, that's the total amount of rent, including the rent that we paid our Propco, less all the operational costs, less any interest that we borrowed. Every year from day one, we've always had a surplus. And if we had, okay, which again, we didn't, because we took that surplus and invested it into the next building and the next building and the next building and the next building. But if we just kept with one building and we just used that surplus and paid off our debt, when we bought it at £1 million, just £1.05 million, Okay, was obviously it cost just over 1.1 with all the buying costs and stuff like that. It's currently we've had an offer 2.8 million, which we turned down about sort of 4 months ago. So we know it's worth 2.8. To us, it's worth 3 million quid. If we used all that surplus just to pay off our debt at the end of this financial year, it would owe us £84,000. So in other words, if you take the value at 2.8 million, which is what we've been offered for it, and you just take off 84,000, we've built an asset base of just over 2.7 million.
It churns off cash as well.
It churns off £250,000 plus a year in cash. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And when you really do look at the numbers, it's like lifting the veil for me. I didn't realize what was possible, and I was just doing the operating of a business. So I had one part of the business, the operating part, and I didn't have the Propco side of it. So if I get this right, then a bricks and mortar valuation, I could buy a building for about £500,000, and I may have to put down 20 or 30% down, whatever that may be. I then operate my self-storage through it, so I profit from that side of it as well. I also profit from a valuation of a property going up because I'm trading in it as well. I can then remortgage and refinance, take the cash out that I put down at the start of it, and then I can start all over again. Is that the correct premise?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So basically, the beauty of the commercial property is basically that you can quite often very quickly get your initial cash back out of it, and that allows you to go and do it again and again. And yeah, we've in 2013 when we built our first one, but we bought another one in 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017. We bought one. And they were all fairly big assets, right? So they were all big. You see in our hotels, and actually, to be quite frank, we're not even ready now to go and buy any more because we're still working on our assets. And this is a really important thing. It's not just about the purchase. It's about how you can when we bought our first building, the office building. There was a garage there, right? We actually, at the time, we didn't really think about it. And I did my sums of how much money I would make out of it. And I said, right, we're going to make 150. We're going to get to £150,000. And that's how much surplus this building will this building will produce. But we didn't realise only a few years later when we filled up the garage, we were like, filled up all the offices. We looked at this garage, and it was a useless garage. The building was built in 1930, so it was fine if minis were still mini, right? But basically, this garage was useless, and it wasn't producing any income. We spent £150,000 on it, right? So this is the important bit. We spent £150,000, and we increased our profit year on year by over £100,000, which is basically a 65% return on capital. We got our money back within a year and a half, and then we get that £100,000 for forever. So the point is, it's not just about the original purchase. It's actually after you've bought things, you can quite often kind of go, well, what if we convert that, right? And all the people listening are going to be business people, right? This entrepreneurial spirit. Just look at every we look at every area of our portfolio and kind of go, shit, if we spend £50,000 there, we could basically increase our profit by £20,000 a year. That's a 40% return on capital. If you can go and borrow money at 5% and get 40, okay. So I think that's the point. The asset management potential is also a huge factor in this.
I think that's a massive lesson, Richard. I actually haven't told you this, but I wrote that down when you was telling us that basically you got to squeeze all the juice out of the orange. And the day I came back from your mastermind, that was one thing that I wanted to get across to everybody. And I actually did a podcast episode just about that. And I referenced you as well in it. And I don't think you actually know that. I don't think I've ever told you. I haven't told Mike either. I haven't told Dan. And it's just something that I've completely forgot about until you said it now. And that actually made me look at my self-storage facility and look at the outside and think, do you know what? I'm focused on growth, but I can actually still do better in my current location. And it made me actually go and invest in more external units, containers. And obviously, it's a great return. So
There's
I've never
always
actually
more.
mentioned that to you.
There's always more. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's a concept. I see it so many times, basically, where people go and buy more and more and more and more. It's like,
Yes.
but go and just, it's all free cash, basically, sitting there. Yeah. They don't optimize it. And it's great. It's one thing optimizing it when you rented it. I know a lot of your models are basically based on renting. We have a storage unit ourselves, which basically we rent that piece of land. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. But actually, when you own it, you know you've got that money, extra money forever, not just to the end of your lease, right?
Yeah.
It's for forever. And that is really satisfying.
You're building wealth out. You're building not just your wealth, but it's generational wealth as well. It's there. That's my biggest takeaway. Well, one of the biggest. I keep saying biggest takeaway. But you're building wealth, and the operating business is great because you're profiting from a business itself. But with this, you're also profiting from the business, from the actual property as well, and it's building wealth over a period of time, which I absolutely love.
One big thing to note, right? So basically, there's this big thing in commercial property where we talk about yields, and it's one thing that people really struggle with, because when you go on, when they price commercial property, they're normally talking about yield values, okay? And it takes a while for people to get their head around. But the fundamentally yield values is just like a multiple. So a 10% yield is a 10 times multiple, an 8% yield is a 12.5 times multiple. The thing to think about is basically you've got P&L and you've got balance sheet. On a P&L, basically, you know, if you're renting and kind of your Opco is on a P&L, your Propco is on a balance sheet. So let's say, for example, you go and squeeze those oranges just a few more times. You go and find, say, another £10,000, okay, straight onto your bottom line. On your balance sheet, that goes in, if it's an 8% yield, goes in at £125,000. You just made 125 grand, right? On your capital. And basically that is 125,000 that a RICS valuer will come along and go, yep. And the value goes up. And the bank goes, yep, fine. And you can basically borrow, get 2/3 of that back out in cash, right? So one of the great examples probably of Opco Propco is McDonald's. Okay, if anyone's actually seen The Founder, I would really recommend you go and watch that movie.
Yeah.
And the book by Ray Kroc is awesome, called Grinding It Out. Okay, it's particular to us because we've got franchise businesses. And what I love about that is basically there's a bit in the film where someone says, Ray, you just don't know what business you're in. Okay, you're in the real estate business. And fundamentally, what he's talking about there is that's where McDonald's became an Opco Propco. McDonald's is the 5th largest property company in the world. And basically, they grew because through their Propco, and their Propco balance sheet kept on improving. And then they would go to the bank and say, I'd borrow more, let me borrow the increase in my balance sheet, take it out in cash, invest it in their Opco. Okay, so Opco Propco, that's why McDonald's are McDonald's.
Yeah, do you know? I know when I hear something good, because I actually genuinely get goose pimples when I'm listening, and I'm getting goose pimples now. There's something. One other thing that I don't think we've mentioned as well, and it literally blew my mind. And I had, maybe I'm naive, I don't know, but I'd never heard of it before. And it's a capital allowance on the buildings. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so this is just another benefit, right? Kind of, so basically,
cake.
Yeah, it is a big cherry on it. It's quite complicated, but the principle is this: that basically every building that has been built has kind of installed. They have the capital deployed at that time, and there were allowances made that are quite often have not been claimed. And you, as the owner, basically can claim those capital allowances. And again, you'll be really surprised how few people have, or companies, the property company that owned the building, the first office building, it was an office company, right? They hadn't claimed the capital allowances on that building. we got £600,000 worth of capital allowances. What that basically means is that's a tax credit equivalent to £600,000, which means you can go and make £600,000 worth of profit, rent or whatever. And we soaked, what we did is we basically soaked a lot of our operating profits and pushed them over into the Propco. And basically we just played the game. So yeah, capital allowances. You don't have to be the one point I think I should say here, you don't need to be a company to do this, right? Opco Propco is a generic term that we operated, and we actually then created a parent company which joins the two basically. So we are a group. A lot of people can do the Opco Propco. So business owners, they can have both the companies in their own name, and some people will basically put the property in their pension or own it in their own personal name. It will be very much dependent upon your own personal circumstances and your ambitions. Some people have been accused of wanting to take over the world. So basically, we created this sort of much more of a sort of large corporate with lots of moving parts. So we operate it as a pure Opco Propco. But the capital allowances, doesn't matter whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, it's like a tax credit. It's just a bonus, basically.
I love that. Yeah. In the self-storage industry, a lot of operators have office space, and obviously with COVID, people have been in and out of the office, working from home, and etc. How have you found that yourself? Have you found a big migration towards working from home, or have people starting to come back now to the office spaces?
Okay, so basically we've got four of our buildings have basically got office space in them. The original one is all offices, and then basically our hotels have kind of 2 floors of offices in them. The hotels, to be quite frank, through a whole COVID, maintained above a 90% occupancy, but most of them tend to be some of the local firms. Okay. The original office building, we went down to about 60% occupancy because a lot of our clients there were the national chains, and they basically just contracted really fast. But we're just about to go. We're at 83% occupancy across the group right now, coming out of COVID. And if we get the contracts that we've seen, the most inquiries are in the last 9 years have come in the last month. We are literally inundated, with office inquiries. May and June was really busy. I think then there was a bit of a quiet time around sort of July and August where everyone went on holiday. Last month has been the busiest month we've ever had. And we, across the portfolio, will be about 93 to 95% in the next couple of months.
That's incredible. My friend's also got an office block as well, and he's absolutely full now. He went down to just below 70% with COVID, and then now he's just saying we just can't keep up with the demand. People are sick of working from home, and me personally, I've just moved house, and I've got this real nice. It was an annex, and we knocked it down. We made it like a man cave and an office and stuff. And as much as I love working from home, it's I just can't seem to get anything done because the kids come in, the wife comes in, and it's a house. It's next to the house, so it's so easy for people to come in and see me. So yeah, I can certainly see why it's just as popular now to go back and working from offices.
Yes, it's kind of we've got a great product as well, and we love it. Basically, it's kind of, if you like storage and offices or whatever, it's all the same. You just create a great kind of product. You have a compelling kind of value proposition. You look after your customers. You look after your team. You know, it's all the general kind of sort of stuff. Make sure you got the right advice so you don't make any mistakes. You know, it's simple.
Yeah, and I can't let you go, Richard, without talking about your self-storage site. How did you get into self-storage? What was the reason behind it?
Okay, so a friend of mine, so I was approached basically by one of our partners, and he came to see me and said, "Look, Richard, I hear you're open to ideas. You should look at storage." And it wasn't the first time I seen it. I owned a farm at the time, and the guy just down the road, a mate of mine, showed me he had light industrial estate, And he showed me, he had one of the buildings was this old barn. Basically, it was worse than sort of MDF up and kind of put a few locks on the door, but he was full. He told me the cash flow numbers. I was like, what? I couldn't believe how much money he was making out of a kind of small barn. So I was already really open to it. So when someone approached me and said, look, would you look at doing some storage, investing in this? We basically said, yeah. He had a site. And I said, look, let me come and see your site. Basically, I want to see whether he knew what he's doing. And literally, I was blown away. He was definitely knew what he was doing. The way he asset managed his sort of light industrial. It wasn't just storage. It was workshops, offices, a whole bunch of stuff. And I kind of looked, instantly recognized he knew what we were doing. We went into a partnership agreement. Basically, we're the majority partner. We've invested into it. It's our first site was basically we leased, and we've leased it for 10 years. I'd like to get longer. The first year, to be quite frank with you, we sort of we cocked it up quite a bit. We picked the wrong marketing people. We had the wrong systems, everything from the wrong gate. And again, we're a corporate, right? So it's not, I hardly was involved with the process at all. Yeah. Effectively, this was an investment within our group. But we've got a great manager who came off of maternity leave, and we said, look, why don't you jump into this and make this work? And she takes all the credit. Kim, she's literally turned it from basically losing money, and it's now making, in its third year, it's going to make about £120,000, which is on an acre, £120,000. If you add back in the rent of the £60,000, that's nearly £200,000 an acre. That's insane, right? And actually, we haven't even started. I've looked at a plan how we could basically increase that number to probably about 240. So we've still got quite a long way to go, and that's an incredible. I'm so basically. I've said to the team, in terms of our own local asset management company, the next purchase is definitely going to be a storage site, and probably the one after that, and the one after that. And I'm kind of, because I look at the bottom line is, I look at the yields, and the yields are phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. I know I need to learn more. Okay. But storage business is red hot at the moment. And what's quite interesting is, because the sites are quite hard to find, it must mean that the availability of supply is going to be kind of sort of somewhat restricted, despite all the farmers who might kind of put a kind of couple of containers on their land. And I can't see demand going down. People are buying more and more crap on Amazon, right? And kind of thinking that they use it once and then they kind of feel guilty about it. They can't throw it away. So they basically end up storing it. And in fact, there's a great anecdote that my neighbor, this one with the barn that made a fortune, basically, he's an old school kind of guy. And he said that people would turn up with all their stuff, and he would look at them and say, I'm only going to say this once, but I feel I really need to. Are you sure you want to store this stuff and give me money for it? Because it doesn't look as though it's worth anything. And they always look at them and go, yeah, we know we should throw it away, but we just can't. And they're there for years, right? Yeah. What an incredible business. And you don't have all the health and safety and fire solutions and everything like that. So a lot of it's a fantastic business. Love it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, since it's a self-storage podcast. But no, I echo everything you've just said. Richard, I want to thank you so much for coming on. If anybody wants to hear more about the Opco, Propco, your training, where will they go? And just before you go, I think there's an element that we've completely missed out, and it's your team. Your team are absolutely second to none, whether it's financing, whether it's hand-holding, whether it's negotiations, whether it's putting in the offer. You guys have a template for absolutely everything. And somebody like me, who would just write an email out, put an offer in, and send it. It was eye-opening to me, the details and the credibility that comes along with that is just worth so much to me. So your team is amazing. I get on with Mike. You yourself, I was speaking to you when you was away as well. And so I just genuinely wanted to say thank you so much, because it's been an absolute amazing journey for me. I've learned so much, and I feel as though this will be the best investment that I have ever made. So yeah, and by the way, I never ever recommend anything that I haven't tried myself on this podcast. So everybody knows listening to this podcast, there's no way that I would recommend something that I didn't fully 1,000,000% believe in myself. So if I want to hear more about it, and why wouldn't they, where would they go, Richard?
Oh, well, so I just say, so end on one thing. I would just say basically that, look, we'll put a link and everything like that, and it'd be great to have a conversation. We need to make sure people are kind of right for the program. I mean, the real benefits of the program fundamentally is we de-risk. Okay, commercial property, acquiring commercial property is complicated, right? It took us a while. It's like playing chess. Yeah, unless you know how everything moves and how everything works, it's very easy to make some mistakes. So basically, that's what the program is all designed for. Basically, making sure people get the best result. Get in contact. We'll give you the link. We're just finishing some of the collateral because you were one of our beta testers, Dean. Yeah, kind of. And it's but we've got all the tools and the systems basically, and we'd love to show people what it's all about.
Yeah, you've even got an analyzer tool as well, which is absolutely fantastic. It tells you what yield you get in etc. and really breaks it down. So yeah, absolutely recommend it. We'll put all the links in the show notes as well. Richard, thank you so much for your time, buddy. I massively appreciate you coming on.
Great. Thanks, Dean.